Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome you again to the sessions and seminars of the Knowledge Summit, and welcome to the third session, which is under the title of Women on the Front Line and Their Role in Empowering Other Women and Young Girls. The session topics will be about girls and women and their leadership and political participation and breaking stereotypes about women. And also we'll be talking about women peace and security agenda. The speakers including Sheikh Jawahir Khalifa Al-Khalifa, chairperson of the Sheikh Jawahir Al-Khalifa Foundation for Youth Empowerment, and Her Excellency Jaslene Quintana, Philippine Ambassador to UAE, and Dr. Moza El-Shehi, Executive Director of the UN Women Liaison Office for the GCC, and Aziza Osman, Social Impact Entrepreneur and Consultant for Emerging Projects and Enterprises. The moderator is Indra, the founder of Empowering Ladies, founder and chairman of ABW 2020. Ms. Ingrid, please.
Hi, everyone. How are you? If I speak at this pace, is that okay? Okay, all right, good. So it's great to see everyone here. I'm really excited about this session today. We're talking about women on the front line and their role in empowering other women and young girls. So I'm the founder and CEO of Empowering a Billion Women by 2020. We help women and girls around the globe start, grow, and scale ventures, because we believe that if we're going to create a global sustainable future that are supportive of our families, of our children, it's really all happening through a new set of eyes, and that is the eyes of women. And we know that when women are earning money, whether it's a little bit of money or a lot of money, they tend to reinvest 90% of what they earn back into their families, communities, and ultimately the world. And so today we have just the extraordinary pleasure and opportunity to hear from 4 incredible women who are at the front line of empowering women and girls around the globe. And the format that we're going to do today is each one of them is going to come up and make a presentation about 10 to 12 minutes apiece. Then after each of the 4 are completed, I'm going to do a little bit of Q&A, and then we're going to open it up to all of you. So we're really excited to hear what questions you have for our esteemed panelists. And so to kick off, we are first going to welcome to the podium Ambassador Jaslene Quintana, who is the Ambassador of Philippines to the UAE. She has spent time in Beijing, Washington, Dublin, Muscat, and Abu Dhabi, amongst other places. Welcome and thank you. Come on up.
Thank you, Ingrid. Good afternoon to all. If you don't mind, I'll be reading from a prepared remarks because I don't want to go over the allotted time. Masahir, good afternoon to all. At the outset, let me just say I'm very honored to be a participant in this important forum, and thank you for inviting me to share some thoughts and ideas in helping build knowledge base on an important issue. I am humbled to be sharing the platform with Her Highness and fellow speakers for this session, who are all remarkable women and whose work on women and children's issues are well known and highly recognized. I laud the organizers, Mohammed bin Rashid Maktoum Knowledge Foundation and the UNDP, for recognizing that any forum on sustainable development will not be complete without tackling the issues that affect women. As a female ambassador in the UAE, one of only 5 currently, I have the special opportunity to talk about what it means to be on the front line and how I can contribute to empowering other women and children and young girls. UAE is very fortunate because it has leaders who understand that women share equal place with men in building a strong, stable, and progressive society. In this modern day and age, this truth is no longer a matter for debate, but sadly, there's more to be done to really make this a commonplace reality. UAE is certainly leading the way. Just a few days ago, I witnessed the opening of the Federal National Council, where we have seen clearly that women are now occupying one half of the total representation at this consultative body. But before anything else, let me share with you my own country's record when it comes to gender equality. In the Asian region, the Philippines stands out as the most gender equal country. From the time when the World Economic Forum started publishing the Global Gender Gap Report in 2006, the Philippines has consistently been in the top 10 ranking for most gender equal countries in the world. Being a consistent top 10 lister since 2006 is an achievement for the Philippines. Throughout its history, Filipino women have occupied an important and influential position in Philippine society. Our history is full of Filipino female heroes who fought against the country's foreign colonizers. In the more contemporary history, some of you can still remember the photo of the religious nuns facing the soldiers and tanks during the EDSA People Power Revolution of 1986. Now, for purposes of today's discussion, I'd like to highlight one important point, and that is, empowering women means stopping violence against women and children. I'd like to emphasize that violence against women remains to be the biggest challenge for women all over. I believe that women and girls need to feel safe, for this is the key to unleashing their full potential. If we want to empower women, we need to stop violence against women and children. So a safe environment for women and girls is the best way to unleash their fullest potential. But sadly, this is not the picture in most homes. We see many women testifying later in life how they were abused by their own father or father figure. Little girls are not spared. Domestic violence is still a major problem. The recent news that the UAE government approved a new policy that includes mechanisms for protecting women, children, among others, is truly a welcome move. Violence against women and girls take many different forms. It may include domestic violence, sexual assault and harassment, child or early and forced marriage, sex trafficking, among others. It is said to be rooted in the gender inequality that women face throughout their lives from childhood to old age. So what kind of future, then, do they face after a terrible experience? These women and children could feel alone and so vulnerable. Violence can lock women and girls into poverty. The insecurity and harassment that are inflicted may limit their choices, their ability to access education, earn a living, and participate in political and public life. And as in a cycle, poverty exposes them to further violence and a lack of options when violence occurs. Truly, violence against women and girls is now considered a hidden global crisis which knows no boundaries of geography or culture. And marginalized women, such as poor women and girls, are most likely the ones to experience it. It is therefore very important that girls grow up in a secure environment where they are valued and respected. Other women do not only feel vulnerable in their own homes, but also in their workplaces. Sadly, data on violence against women and girls is quite scarce. Only half of countries at the global level collect data. Violence against women, or VAW data, are missing for most of the Arab states, about 90%, and for many countries from Latin America and the Caribbean, about 70%. Only in two groups, the OECD countries and the East Asia and the Pacific region, do the majority of countries have VAW data. There are several reasons, not least that it is notoriously difficult to collect such data when the victims can fear coming forward or even, tragically, feel ashamed. Data can also be politically sensitive, especially in some cultures. A good deal of work is now underway to gather more evidence. UN Women's Global Database on Violence Against Women seeks comprehensive information on all forms of VAW, while UNICEF publishes key child protection indicators. A major pillar of Philippine foreign policy is the protection of the rights and promotion of welfare of the Filipino diaspora, which numbers 10 million or 10% of the Philippine overall population. The Filipino diaspora has changed the fabric of Philippine society in that women have become breadwinners and men have become stay-at-home husbands. More than 50% of the Filipino diaspora are women, and 10% of them are engaged in the most vulnerable sectors. Roughly 10% of the 10 million Filipinos worldwide are working in private homes. So we in the Philippine Diplomatic Service have a special role to play to help those who are in the vulnerable sectors, such as household service workers. Being in private workplaces, they can be subject to some form of physical or psychological abuse that are not being experienced by male workers. As an ambassador, it behooves upon me to readily respond to their pleas for help and make sure they are given the proper attention and assistance. The other very clear instance that women find themselves very unsafe is in conflict situations. According to the UNHCR, women and girls face discrimination and violence every day simply because of their gender. An ordinary task like collecting water or going to the toilet can put them at risk of rape or abuse. In times of displacement and conflicts, this problem escalates. Women and girls make up around 50% of any refugee, internally displaced, or stateless population. And those who are unaccompanied, pregnant, heads of households, disabled, or elderly are especially vulnerable. The Philippines is no stranger to conflict. In 2017, the world witnessed the siege of Marawi in southern Philippines. 98% of the total population of Marawi was displaced as a result of the armed confrontation between government forces and pro-ISIS militants. The Philippine government provides durable solutions for internally displaced people in Marawi, particularly women and children. The adoption of the Bangsamoro Organic Law in 2018 has set mechanisms for assistance and rehabilitation which Filipino women in the South can avail of in reconstruction efforts on conflict-damaged areas. So violence against women is indeed a serious problem. It is a society's responsibility then to create an environment that is safe for women and girls. The Philippines has passed laws that protect the rights of women, and I'd like to give you some examples like the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, the Anti-Rape Law, the Rape Victim and Assistance Protection Act, the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act, the Magna Carta for Women, the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act, the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act, the Safe Spaces Act, and the 105-day expanded maternity leave law. The 105-day expanded maternity leave law has extended the maternity leave from 60 days to 105 days. The Safe Spaces Act of 2019 is quite recent, but it is considered revolutionary as it aims to protect against gender-based sexual harassment in streets, public spaces, even online spaces, workplaces, and education training institutions. There is a government agency called the Philippine Commission on Women, which is mandated to formulate and oversee the successful implementation of legislative policies toward gender equality and empowerment of Filipino women and girls. In the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, the Philippines is also at the forefront in contributing to policies that aim to promote gender equality and empowerment of women and girls Some of these major ASEAN initiatives are as follows: Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Elimination of Violence Against Children, the ASEAN Regional Plan of Action on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and ASEAN Convention Against Trafficking in Persons, especially women and children. In the United Nations, the late Filipino Senator Leticia Ramos Shahani, then a diplomat, was among the original drafters of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in the 1970s. This resulted in the Philippines being among the original signatories to the convention in 1980. It was the first ASEAN country to ratify the convention in 1981. The Philippines staunchly continues its Violence Against Women campaign on a yearly basis. Each year, from November 25 to December 12, the Philippines observes an 18-day advocacy campaign on VAW. The period of Philippine observance of VAW is 2 days longer than the 16-day action campaign of other UN member states. The previously mentioned Philippine Commission on Women works with the Philippine Interagency Council on Violence Against Women and Children in the yearly national observance of the 18-day campaign to end VAW. The VAW campaign's theme from 2016 to 2021 is VAW-free community starts with me, with hashtag VAWFreePH. The campaign aims to educate all Filipino citizens, whatever the age, on what constitutes violence against women and girls, and informs the public on laws protecting women and girls. Government agencies deliver services to the public, which promotes a life that is free from violence against women. The smallest unit of government in the Philippines, which is the barangay, have VAW desks for female victims of violence. I think it is in this area of VAW public campaigns that we can show the Philippines engaged in best practices. In the Philippine education system, Filipino girls are taught their rights and are trained not to let anyone violate these. Girls at an early age are taught not to allow themselves to become victims of violence and are taught how to handle situations of violence if these occur. Boys are taught to respect girls and not to be instruments of violence. They are also taught to be respectful of everyone's right to be free from abuse and violence. So education is key to overcoming stereotypes in gender roles because it leads to a change in the individual's perspective, which in turn will challenge existing cultural norms. Only by challenging existing cultural norms will there be a shift in how the roles of women and girls will be perceived by society. Shukran jazilan.
Inspiring. Next up, we have Dr. Musa El-Shehi. She is the Director of UN Women for the GCC. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Moza Shahi. I'm the Director of UN Women Liaison Office here in the Abu Dhabi and the GCC. I'm very happy today to be here, and I would like to thank the organizer to give me the chance to be with everybody here in this room, and also with the distinguished speaker here with us today. Today I will talk about a very amazing project we worked on it last 1 year, and I will give you like a story about what will happen with us in empowering women in the Arabic country. So I will talk about 3 main points. The first one is like an overview about UN Women globally, and UN Women and Liaison Office, and after that our peacekeeping project, which we established here in the UAE. Generally speaking, globally, UN Women established in 2010, and UN Women is the United Nations entity responsible for gender equality and women empowerment. Okay, I will try to increase my voice. We have 4 priorities. The first one is increasing women leadership and participation. The second one is ending violence against women. The third priority is engaging women in all aspects of peace and security process. And the fourth one is enhancing women economic empowerment. So this is what we are working on, and generally in United Nations. We have generally 64 offices, 7 liaison office, 51 country office, and 6 regional office. And our office based in Abu Dhabi here in UAE, and it was established under the patronage of Sheikha Fatma bint Mubarak. The GCC liaison office was established in October 2016 under the patronage of Her Highness Sheikha Fatma bint Mubarak, Mother of our nation. And the UN Women GCC liaison office work in partnership with General Women Union as the national missionary of women empowerment here in the UAE. As we can see here, it was a picture between Lakshmi Puri and our embassies here and MOFA signing the agreement to establish the center here in Abu Dhabi. Generally, we are focusing in 3 areas. The first one is building partnership and leading advocacy effort in gender equality. And the third one, resource mobilization to support women globally. We are in GCC office, we have like 2 main themes. The first one is increasing women as peacekeeping, and the second one is economic empowerment. The question is why we need more women as a peacekeeper. The statistics show that the woman as a peacekeeper, it's only 4%, between 4 and 7. So this is why we are here concentrating in our office to increase the number of peacekeeping in general in the world. United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, as we can see here, and subsequent resolution on women, peace and security affirm the importance of women participation and the inclusion of gender perspective across all peace and security process, including the peacekeeping. The UN Women work with the member states to implement the WBS agenda, and also women participation is key to operate effectively as peacekeeping training. Now I will talk about our project, which we launched last year. It's called the UN Women UAE Women Peace and Security Training Program. It was based in Abu Dhabi and with the Ministry of Defense and Military of UAE. Generally, the UAE government has a long-standing commitment to advance the women and peacekeeping security agenda, not only in the UAE, it's also around the globe. And UAE government is committed to promote the active participation of women in peacekeeping. Also, UAE government consider its partnership with UN Women as key part of global strategy to implement WBS in general. There was an MOU was signed between our office as UN Women based in UAE and also Ministry of Defense and the government of UAE. It was in 2018, and the main point was in this MOU to increase the number of peacekeepers in general from all over the world, specifically the Arabic region. As we can see here, it was a picture signing the MOU in New York. Our program has 3 objectives. The first one is to increase women representation in military and peacekeeping operation and strengthening the operational effectiveness of peacekeeping. The second one is providing training and capacity building. And the third objective was to creating peer-to-peer network among all the peacekeepers who will be trained in the future. The training was for 3.5 months. The first 3 months was converting the person from civilian life to a military person. And the second 2 weeks, it will be concentrated on peacekeeping specifically. So the first, the component and the military module, which was in the first 3 months, content weapon training, intelligence, military topography, basic survival, battlefield skill, chemical weapon in general, security training, internal security, self-management in the field, and field engineering. After they finished the 3 months training in Khawla Bint Al-Azwar School, which is in Abu Dhabi also, one of the first military school in the Gulf and also in the Arabic region, they will start 2 weeks training in peacekeeping, which include generally course about the UN and UN Charter, peacekeeping operation, humanitarian assistance, UN compensation system, checkpoints, monitoring role of women in peace process. Last year, the training was, as I mentioned, in Khawla Military School. We invited more than 134 Arab women from different 7 Arabic countries, and they graduate in 2019 in April. Upon training, the completion of this project, they receive 4 certificates. The first one is Basic Military Training Certificate, Peacekeeping Certificate, First Aid, and Jiu-Jitsu. So they will be able to empower them mentally and physically. What is next? By an order from the Mother of Nations, Sheikha Fatma bint Mubarak, she was giving us an order to increase this project and to make it bigger. So we are waiting now. After 3 weeks, inshallah, we will have more than 270 women coming from all over the world. They are coming from Asia and some countries from Africa, and they will start the second cohort with us here in the UAE. And everybody will come to attend with us the graduation of the second course, inshallah. So what's the takeaway from this project? Actually, this training program is opening up a non-traditional career. So we are giving those ladies chance to have a different kind of work path when they will go back to their country. And also this training program provides not just a physical benefit to the trainee, but also mental and psychological benefit. Organization this program has demonstrated what we need to collaborate more with fellow member states and different also organizations, either the private sectors or also the governmental sectors. This training program provides training for employment opportunity when cadets complete the program, be in their national security services. At the end of this presentation, I would like to thank Sheikha Fatma bint Mubarak, the Mother of Nation, and also I would like to thank the government of UAE to give us the chance as UN women to do this kind of project and to increase the number of women as peacekeeping in general. And now there will be like 2 minutes documentary about our successful story.
Oh my gosh, I don't know about you, but I'm totally inspired. Now I'd like to welcome to this stage Her Royal Highness Sheikha Jawar Khalifa Al Khalifa, who is the chairperson of the Sheikha Jawar Khalifa Al Khalifa Foundation for Youth Empowerment.
I regret not having any papers or bullet points. I said that I will speak from my heart, and that's what I will do. First of all, I'm going to start by saying that it's a great honor and it's a pleasure to be a part of the Knowledge Summit and just meeting a lot of people, very inspiring people with many different stories. I can't even describe how I feel, to be honest. If you'll allow me, I will start by saying who inspired me and how did I get here today, which I am very proud of. It has two parts. The first part was a very strong, inspiring, powerful, different woman who is my mother. And she was sometimes difficult, she was sometimes very soft, but she always gave me the chance to go and make my own decision and just try what I want to try. She always gave me this roadmap and she'd tell me what I would face. And I would go there and I would face what she said that I will. And then I go back and I tell her that I failed. And she helps me to start again. In this process, I think I was searching for myself. I was searching for what I am good at and what is my purpose in this society. And the other part is every single woman, starting from these great, successful, inspiring women to every single woman here and out there in the world. I would like to say thank you. Every single woman has a role in empowering not only herself, but other women. Just by being successful, you're actually you're having people or other women or other young ladies who are actually inspired by you and they want to do what you are doing. So that said, I was inspired a couple of days by a speech that Oprah, she had a while ago. And she was talking about what is power, what is authentic power. And I think this video changed a lot into myself. And she said, authentic power is the power that you have. It's not given to you by your name or who you are or where do you work or you being famous. Authentic power is the ability of serving, your actions are serving your inner soul. That's power. And then if you are doing things that you are actually serving your inner soul, then you are an empowered person. And then comes the question, what is your value in the society or in the world? So you are an empowered person, and you know that. You know that you have the power to actually make a change or do something. This is where you have to look for what is your purpose and what are you going to give from what you have been given in your life. So every empowered person, and especially women, they have been given something, and then the ability to actually serve something which is, serve a purpose which is greater than ourselves. Here comes women empowerment for me, for example. So when I started in my journey, I changed a lot of businesses and I tried a lot of fields. I was really looking for what I wanted to do, and the only thing that kept me on going to find what I am passionate about is seeing many women, successful and inspiring women here in the UAE, starting from the UAE and all over the world. I am based here in the UAE, and because of the help and the guidance we have from our rulers and our government, because of them, this country has amazing examples of very successful women who did things for the first time in the Arab region, in the GCC, and maybe even in the world. So every time I hear about someone new, like a new lady with a new success, with a new story, I know for sure that I want to become a person with a story, and people will hear about that one day. And that's what kept me going on, and I never stopped. So here is where we started the foundation, Jawahar Al Khalifa Foundation, which serves the innovators. Whatever kind of innovation you have, it could be an idea, it could be an application, it could be whatever it is, as long as it serves the society, and then we work with you on it to develop it, to make it look perfect, and then we take it to the second level, and we actually work on not just keeping these ideas only ideas on papers. We want to take them to another level and actually have an impact on let's say the UAE or even the entire world. And so at the moment we are working with a couple of young ladies and men on very, very great ideas, things that serve education and serve health. And I think we are making progress, but I think I'm at the first step. I think that there is a very long journey ahead of us, and we're just at the beginning. So the opportunity of me being here among very successful and very powerful in mind, and with their actions and what they've done and what they've served in this world, I think this is the greatest opportunity for me. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, well then finally, always last but not least, right? Before we start some of the conversation is Ms. Aziza Osman. She is a social impact entrepreneur and consultant and a board member at Yasur, which is an international NGO that provides education and development opportunities for youth. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for inviting me to speak today on a topic that is very close to my heart. Over the last 10 years, I served on the board of an international NGO that provides education opportunities for women and youth worldwide. Until date, I'm proud to say that we have built 3 schools in Lebanon, educated 4,500 children, and provided scholarship opportunities for 700 underprivileged youth. And one day when I was looking at the number of applications that we received for the scholarships, I noticed that 80% of our applications came from young men, while only 20 to 30% came from young women. And while I tried to investigate as to why that is the case, I came to the following conclusion. My findings showed that these women were reluctant to apply to opportunities in education and in jobs because they were missing one of the requirements on the list, or because they missed the deadline by a few hours or days. While by young men had no problem applying with half-completed papers weeks after the deadline has passed. And this has showed us that women lack the confidence and had many challenges ahead of them in pertaining education and career opportunities. And this is only the beginning. Worldwide, we have seen that women have taken the streets petitioning for gender equality and closing the gender gap. But what does that really mean? Why are these events taking headlines? Sometimes we have so many news coming to us that we even believe that we don't understand the real meaning of gender gaps or gender equality. One day my husband came to me and said, I'm reading everywhere on the news that women are taking the streets and demanding equality, that I feel underrepresented, and I'm going to start my own men's movement for equal rights. And so I do believe that there's a misconception and misinterpretation or misunderstanding on women's rights or women's equality. And so I'm going to try and use a little bit of economics to explain why is that the case. Over the past century and in the last decades, we've seen a higher number of women joining the workforce. And although that is great news, in all over the regions, women still fall short of representation in the workforce and as low as 20% in the Middle East. So compared to men, we are still at a disadvantage. I'm going to try it. McKinsey tried to dig deeper into the women in the labor force and their advancement to managerial roles. And what we can see here in the last graph is that at entry-level positions, 50% of the labor force is men and 50% is women, almost. And as we advanced across the managerial roles, only 20% of women make it to C-level suite executive positions. And to make our own little experiment for the day, can I have a show of hands of how many women we have in the room? Great. Those of you who are married, pregnant, or have children, can you lower your hands? Wow, that's a majority. Worldwide, over 43% of women who are pregnant or have children leave the workforce. And this is a very sad number indeed. The International Monetary Fund tried to put a number to the economic losses caused by women leaving the workforce, and that amounted up to 30% of GDP in losses for the Middle East, 10% for advanced economies. The World Bank then put the losses at $160 trillion worldwide, equivalent to 3.1 trillion in losses for the Middle East. That's around $575 billion that we lose every year because barriers exist around women joining the workplace. So if the magnitude in economics and financials is so high, why are women still leaving the workplace? Why do we still face challenges at work? And it is because of the simple reason that till today, we put women in a position where they are forced to leave children, sometimes as young as 6 weeks or 12 weeks old, to be able to make an income and return to work, or they have to leave work to attend to their children. So what do we mean by gender equality and closing the gap? What are some of our basic needs? An equal paid maternity leave, flexibility in working hours, childcare facilities in offices, and support. And by support, I mean using technology and acknowledging that today we can work from anywhere. And more than anyone, as mothers, we are in need of companies giving us the flexibility of work. Paid maternity leave, we can see that economies around the world are catching up and countries are providing up to 90% or 100% of the pay for 60 weeks of maternity leave. And so, by enabling women and providing their basic needs, we're not only providing an income for women, we are prohibiting the losses for women at home, their families, their households, countries, regions, and the world. When women leave the workplace, not only do they miss out on the income, all of the expenses of the household and the family care fall on men. So perhaps my husband was right. Maybe he should start a movement and petition for men's rights. On an ending note, and a very positive one, I hope you gained some knowledge on what women mean by closing the gender gap, by petitioning for equal rights, and hopefully we will celebrate the progress that we've made today by meeting these great role models in women leadership. Thank you very much.
My husband would love to hear that too. He thinks we need the man's movement. Raise your hand if you agree. I do. I do too, right? Yeah, I always say, and I think we have shared values here in terms of, as women are elevating to our fullest potential, the only way that that's really going to happen is doing it in collaboration with the men. So a shout out to all the incredible men who are in the room with us today, because we really appreciate that collaboration. Thank you. So I'm just going to do a few questions to our panelists here, and then I'd like to open it up to all of you. I'm sure you've got some questions too. But I'm going to go ahead and start with Aziza, going back to what we just talked about here for a moment, in terms of unlocking the potential of women. Hey, you're involved with a very unique initiative that I think unlocks the potential for women. Can you share with us just a little bit about that and share with the audience, I think, an idea that might inspire us in terms of things we can do in our own communities to unlock the potential of women?
All right. Thank you very much. As I was sharing earlier, some of the barriers around women exist in the workplace because of whether it is maternity leave or lack of facilities or flexible hours. And we are put in a situation where we need to choose between staying at home with the children or working. And so I thought, why isn't there a place where we could do both at the same time? Why isn't there a place where women could work yet take after their children at the same time? And so I thought, as women, maybe we could create a co-working space whereby we can continue working, whether it is for our previous jobs or create our own businesses, but have a nursery on site so that we could live up to our potential as mothers and at the same time as businesswomen.
And I'd love to dig into that more, but I know we only have a little bit of time here. But I'd like to build on that with Her Royal Highness as we talk about, Aziza, you brought up the confidence gap. And I know firsthand, a few years ago, I launched a $100 million fund by and for women entrepreneurs, and not a single woman applied. The men did. And the byline actually said, by and for women entrepreneurs. And so what I'd like to ask you is, you talked about your mother, okay? And you talked about how she built your confidence. So I have two questions for you. One, I'm very curious who or what inspired your mother? And then if you would then bridge it to, you talked about Oprah, and we all have, something inside of us. And so what suggestions do you have for us and for the women in the audience in terms of finding our own voice and our own confidence to go out into the world and do what we're called to do?
Okay. About my mother, my father is a very well-respected man. I respect him a lot. He serves in the military, and he's always busy. So my mother was there most of the time alone, raising us. So women struggle with children, and especially like when you're a teenager, and then there is something that is expected from you as, or there was some certain things expected from me. And then at the time when I was in high school, I knew that I do not want to do these things. I want to choose my own path. I was supposed to study law, and it wasn't my thing. I couldn't, so I was a little bit stubborn. So she had the knowledge, and she was very intelligent in how to actually help me out, not making me run away and not talk to her because I'm scared and I have to do what they're telling me to. So that's what inspired me, and her role in my life, and how I got to do what I wanted to do. As for the ladies, I think the greatest obstacle you have in life, this is something you have to understand. The greatest obstacle you would face in life is nothing but yourself. Nothing. There is no any reason in the world that can stop you, but only yourself. If you convince yourself that you can, then you can. I told you earlier, I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know what purpose should I work in, and who am I, and what is my purpose, and in what field am I going to make a difference? So that's why I tried many things, and I went to many people, and I know a lot of people right now, alhamdulillah, thank God. But it wasn't easy because you had to change and start over and change and start over. But at a point, I reached a point that I knew from inside that this is my thing. So two advice is do not let yourself to be your greatest obstacle. No, let your inner soul to become your greatest supporter in whatever you want to do. And the second thing, do not think that if you did not succeed in something that you are a failure. No, you are not a failure, but this is not meant to be for you. Something else is. Just look for it and you'll find it.
That's so good. Can I share what you and I said right before we started? I made the comment, I said, yeah. Right. I made the comment, I said, you know, when you grow up in a great family, there are a lot of expectations put on your life. And I think, you know, I grew up in the States, and when you grow up in a great family, you know, you can have a lot of choices with what you can do with your life. And I said, I'm just incredibly inspired that you made the decision that rather than sitting back, you have taken an active role and are doing a number of initiatives to help really move the ball forward for women and children, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the ambassador for a moment. And we wanted to talk for a moment about women and girls and unheard voices. And you talked a lot about how we really need to attack the violence issue, if you will. What I'm really curious about, though, from your perspective, is for the individuals in the room, and you talked a lot about legislation that's passed in the Philippines, initiatives that are being put in place at the government level, but what can individuals in the room do to help tackle down violence against women and children? What suggestions do you have?
Thanks, Ingrid, for that question. I think, you know, the topic is very broad, that I wanted to have a purpose in my remarks. And I wanted to use it for the purpose of speaking on behalf of the women and children, young girls, who cannot speak. And I am in a field where I don't experience violence, but I worry about those who cannot speak for themselves. And I think as people who have achieved something in life, I think we can use our voices in whatever field you are as individuals to speak for those who are voiceless because they are in an unsafe environment. And I still believe that there are many of those and they need our help. As I said, you know, the data doesn't even exist. But we know that they're there, and I think, going back to your question, there's this consciousness we should have that consciousness to help them and be the voice for them.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And finally, I want to take a question back here to Dr. A. Shahi. And as you were going through your presentation and really talking about unheard voices, as we were just talking about, I just kept asking myself the question, and you had some of the stats in your presentation, but I was like, why, outside of the obvious of it makes business sense and good sense to have women involved in the peacekeeping process for all kinds of reasons, but what's really driving your passion on that, and what's really behind that? I mean, what happens as more women get involved in the peacekeeping process? What can we expect on the global scene to happen?
Actually, basically, I'm a physician.
Oh, let's make,
I think it's working. It's سمع.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know why I have always a problem with my voice, but I'll try to raise it now. Basically, I'm a physician, I'm a doctor, and I have a PhD in medicine, and also I'm from military background. I raised here in UAE, and everything was available for me. There is peace. I was educated, and I have like higher education, and also I joined the military. The minute I joined the United Nations as a director for liaison office, I know that there is a lot of priority, like economic empowerment, leadership, protecting women against violence, and peacekeeping. And we know that there is a lot of challenge in the world. There is a lot of people, they don't have this peace. They don't have life. They don't have like healthy environment to stay. So I was really concentrating on like empowering those women and converting them from a victim, for being a victim in their area, to be a peacekeeping and working in peacekeeping, peace builder, and participate more and to be empowered physically and mentally in their country. This is what I was looking for, and I really would like to work more in this field and to make it bigger worldwide.
Thank you. Well, it's inspiring to look at those stats because we know as more women are at the decision-making tables in these countrywide conversations, we know that they're building more peaceful communities, more sustainable communities, more economically prosperous communities. So, and this is certainly a big part of that. So thank you so much. I've got lots of questions here, but I really want to turn this over to you to invite any of you who might have a question to our esteemed panelists here. If you would, I don't know if we have a mic, and if we don't, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Here we go. And we'll come back to you right here, second row. Thank you. Right here. Okay, thank you.
Hi. Assalamu alaikum. Myself Jasmine Mahmood. I'm a teacher working in Voice Indian Academy, Ajman. I'm a working woman, as I told. So my question is to all ladies. How can we manage or how can we make a balance between family life and professional life? Because I'm from a middle class family. So I have to cook, I have to take care of my kids, I have to make all study plans, worksheets, everything. So we are struggling with that. So how can we make a balance between these two? That is my question.
I love the work-life balance, because that's a tough one. Who would like to tackle that down? Ziza. The one building the workers' workspace for working mothers.
So I'll give it an attempt. It's on? Okay. No? Closer? All right, here we go. I had a conference in London 2 months ago that I had to go to, and I didn't want to leave my 3-month-old baby behind, so I decided to take her with me. And she was next to me in the conference room. So I followed the footsteps of Jacinda Ardern and took my baby with me to the Congress or to the conference. And so the point I'm trying to make is whenever you need to make a decision between taking your children to work, then don't hesitate to combine the two to make a statement. And I think this is what Jacinda did, to make a statement that I shouldn't be ashamed for being a mother, and I do have needs to be with my children so I can do work while I have my kids. Another point is I would use all the resources I have available to me to be able to finish my work, but at the same time be there at home with my family. And to me, that's just being connected all the time, waking up a little bit earlier to do my emails, or working late at night when the kids go to sleep. And I think this is the only way where I could excel at both work and family.
I'm curious to the panelists to build on that for a moment, to just, do any of you feel like you actually have balance? Or have you figured this all out? Because I'd love to know. No. If you do, we'd love those secrets. Okay, let's go here.
Okay, my name is Lajena. I'm a regional HSC training communication manager. So my question actually is towards the ambassador. So it's amazing listening to all the initiatives and all the programs you guys have in the Philippines when it comes to violence against women. So I basically have two questions. So my first question is, have you seen an actual impact in comparison if you take a look at the numbers before and after having these programs? And second is, have you been able to share these best practices with other countries within the 90% that basically don't have much? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I have been reading something about the impact of all these policies and legislations that we had, and I think because they are happening at the smallest unit of the government, it has an impact at the grassroots. There have been arrests, there have been cases filed. I think, the men are beginning to have a consciousness that the laws are harsh on them. I have been approached, for example, by women and say, asking for my help in terms of what advice, if they are in a situation that is so difficult. And these laws actually are helping them, especially the ones who are abroad. And that's why I highlighted them. And they are evolving. The Safe Spaces Act that I mentioned is actually an improvement from another legislation, the Sexual Harassment Act, which means that anyone now can be an offender, and that anything could be penalized, like catcalls, wolf whistling, anything that would make a woman uncomfortable, and in all kinds of spaces, not just in schools or workplaces, but actually in shopping malls. So if someone does it to you, you can actually file a case against that person. I think what I'd like to highlight about that is that, there are these initiatives and there are these policies that will really make it put in the consciousness of people that, it's just wrong. It's just wrong to do that on women. To women, and that women should not feel insecure or powerless or even coerced or intimidated by anything. Which means that that's the only thing sometimes that's keeping women from really, maximizing their full potential. It's real, and sometimes we don't see it. And these are the only things sometimes that they can hang on to. So at the grassroots level, yes, I would say so. Thank you.
Okay. Any final questions? Yes, we've got one in the back, and then we'll come up to you in the front. Thank you. Right, there you go. She's standing up in the back, please. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sabine Muzaffar, and I run a digital platform empowering women called Ananke. And my question is about peacekeeping and peace building. We've just come to realize the importance of women's participation in peace building and peacekeeping. And I would love to know your opinion, why it is so critical to have women on board, especially in conflict-stricken areas, to have women there.
As I mentioned before, I think before 2011 there was no law for increasing women or participation of women as peacekeeper. But after 2000, there was a United Nations General Secretary resolution saying like we need really to increase women as peacekeeper, because we need the woman to participate and also to prevent and to take a role as a leadership and peace building in general, because usually everybody think like the woman, she will be the woman and the child, they are usually the victim in any war. So this is why I think it's very important that we change this and we empower the woman to be to take a decision in this war, and at the same time to be capable to protect herself and also to protect her country in general if there is any war. This is why I believe that we need really to increase the number of women as peacekeepers.
Thank you. Okay, we have one final question right up here in the front, please.
Hello, my name is May Nabil. I'm a Managing Director of MCC Educational. We work in educating women, teaching them languages and training, especially in the field of teachers and teacher training, because education is a very, very important role these days, and raising awareness is part of education. I have comments, not questions. My comments are: we in the heat of fixation on by women empowerment programs, on focusing on women, I think we shouldn't forget the role of men in the life of women. For me, my father was a very important figure in my life. At a young age, he trusted me, and he gave me full potential to make my own decisions, and to even sometimes, like when my college needed signatures, who I can see and where can I go, he said, you sign this, because by trusting me, he knows that I can trust myself and I can do things that my family will honor in me. So basically, men are very important also, because once a woman is engaged or married, she has to get the permission of the man in her life, whether a fiancé or a father or a brother or whoever. So it's really important. I like what Her Excellency mentioned about educating men on the importance of respecting women, protecting women, because they have a big role. Most of the violence cases are committed by men against women. So if they're not educated and their awareness is not raised, then we have a big problem. A couple of days ago, we read about this woman whose eyes were taken out by her man in the heat of an argument. So she's blind now. So how can she take care of her children? Another thing is we need to, like what we have today, it's very good because these are great examples of success stories. They can inspire other women. That is very important in the program of educating women. We shouldn't forget the retired women in retirement, because they have behind them a lot of education, a lot of work experience, and it's great to work with young people because they are the future, but we shouldn't forget also the women after retirement.
I agree, and thank you very much for that. I think we see globally there's a trend that women after the age of 50 are often put to the side, so we agree.
Exactly.
And so with that, if you'll allow me here, because I want to be thoughtful of everybody's time, if we can begin to close out here, I'd love to come back to our panelists just for a moment and just see if, as the audience is thinking again about what can we each do as we leave the room today in terms of promoting women's empowerment and men inclusion as well. Is there one piece of advice or just a thought that you would like to leave the audience with? And I'm putting them on the spot because I did not give them the heads up on this. So do I have one of my brave panelists that might go first? Okay, Aziza, there she goes. Oh, okay, Her Royal Highness.
I would say we have to play the role in communicating our needs. So if we want to be represented as women, we need to structure our thoughts, structure our needs, and be able to communicate what it is that we want. So we represent ourselves, and I think by coming together and structuring what it is that we need and want, this is the first step at empowering other women.
Perfect, yes. Her Royal Highness?
I have an advice. 3 steps. The first step is to believe in myself. This is an advice to, because we're speaking about women and young ladies, so it's an advice for young ladies, but of course in general. First of all, to believe in myself. I don't want myself to be the obstacle that stops me. And then number 2, to look and search and research and look again and again and again for what is my purpose. who am I and what am I going to do? And step 3, look for help. Don't be ashamed. Here in the UAE, we have many different entities to help in your business, in your education, in whatsoever. And I'm sure everywhere in the world there is someone to help, to give you an advice, to encourage you. We are all here, and many other people are here. Just look for help and then get going.
Thank you. Okay. Would you like to go ahead? Yeah.
I will just say briefly, I think according to our culture here also, we need to we need to have a balance. We need to empower men and women at the same time, because I cannot empower women while the man is very weak and he is not able to support, for example, his wife. So it should be like win-win and like balance between both gender, men and women at the end.
Thank you. Okay.
I would say collective action is very important. I think this is a very complex issue, a very sensitive issue even. And it's important that we develop the partnerships with other like-minded organizations. Certainly Dubai has a lot of foundations that are dealing with women's interests of women and children. And I myself, I'm beginning to explore that so that we can help these women and children who are suffering. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to all of you for taking time out of your day to spend it with us. We really appreciate you very much. And to our panelists, one more round of applause. Incredible job, and we're honored to do this with you today. Thank you.